Now, our next guest has been on the show before. We just mentioned his online store you can access through 21stcenturywire.com. He is a health and well-being advocate and has a lot to say about the things that we need to basically be well, especially during these winter months. His name is Clive de Carle, and he is joining us on the line right now, and hopefully we've got a good connection. Hello, Clive.
Hello, Patrick.
Thank you so much. Great to have you back.
Great to be back. And what should we talk about today?
Well, I've got a couple things I wanted to ask you, actually, because as you know, Clive, the days are getting short, and they will continue to do so up until, I guess, that point just after solstice, winter solstice. You know, it's getting dark in the northern hemisphere, around 4:30 p.m. pretty soon, and then the sun's coming up later as well. So, a lot of people have questions about the importance of sleep and about the circadian rhythms. And also, I would think this time of year, there's going to be a lot of people that are deficient in certain things, not least of all vitamin D. But I wanted just to get your thoughts on that issue.
Well, it's a really interesting point. I didn't realize till recently that when we're in the sunshine, we make more melatonin than when we don't get any sun. So your melatonin aids deep sleep. So in the summer, we're out all day, outside. And when we come back home, we're feeling really ready to have a really fabulous rest that night. Whereas in the winter, sometimes people toss and turn. It gets, as you say, dark very early. And the problem is that many of us aren't creating the melatonin we should do for a whole host of reasons. It might be that our pineal gland has become calcified. It might be that we go to sleep when there's a little bit of light showing somewhere in our bedroom, a little red light or blue light, or seeing a chink of light through a street light or something like that. If we're not sleeping in total darkness, we can't really utilize our melatonin properly. And if you, in the middle of the night, turn a light on, they say that actually switches the melatonin off for the rest of the night. So if one had to walk, let's say somebody is eating too much sugar, or they've got a blood sugar issue and they're having to get up in the night to have a pee, it may be that using a little salt lamp, if you have to use some light to see where you're going, would be the way forward, because our eyes are used to the glowing of a fire, and so those salt lamps with a very low wattage bulb work very well. But other than that, one also wants to, in the bedroom, keep everything out of the way. Don't use your telephone as a way to wake up. Use an alarm clock if you need one. Turn the Wi-Fi off. Turn everything electrical off that you possibly can. And let's talk a bit more about melatonin. Melatonin, I'm spelling this word with a K for legal reasons, is anti-cancer. A huge amount of research has been done, particularly very recently, about the anti-cancer properties of melatonin in surprisingly high doses. Now, normally 3 milligrams or something like that would be a normal dose that people might have just before bed. As you know, I expect pilots and air crew often use melatonin as a way to reset their time clock. And melatonin has pretty clear anti-aging properties, it would seem. There's been a lot of research done on melatonin it has very beneficial properties for the eyes. Anybody with macular degeneration wants to consider how important melatonin is. We make our own, but there are quite a lot of people who have for many decades been supplementing with melatonin, and as you might expect, it's been made illegal all over the place, including England. However, you can get it from Italy, and there's a company called Profound Products, and you can buy it through them. But investigate its properties before considering it, and I'm not recommending anything. I'm not recommending anything medical or anything like that. So just for your research, I interviewed a man called Walter Pierpaoli, and if you put my name, it's still on YouTube, I think, my name and Walter Pierre Pauli or Melatonin on YouTube, you can see the expert explaining just how the work has been done over the years, the research to this incredibly important hormone. And, I could talk about melatonin for hours. The other factor you mentioned was vitamin D. And as I think everybody knows, if you can't get sunshine, the closest alternatives would be things like a vitamin D light, and Philips, the brand Philips, make a special vitamin D bulb, which would be the way I'd go rather than the alternatives, which these days are, excuse me, these days are LEDs. Just got to drink some water. Another way would be to eat cod liver oil or lots of oily fish. If you've got mushrooms, leave them out in the sunshine if there is any, and that'll charge them up with vitamin D2. But most people supplement in winter. And I was so pleased when I started supplementing with vitamin D in winter, because I used to get colds every year. And the moment I started supplementing with vitamin D, never had a sniffle in 15 years. So, it's super important. But most of the vitamin D out there is made from sheep's wool. And of course, while it's a good use of sheep's wool, because nobody wears jumpers anymore, so they actually are wasting sheep's wool, they're just burning it. So extracting the vitamin D at least is a good thing. But we've also got on the site new vitamin D, which is made naturally from lichen. And so the lichen one obviously is vegan friendly. And we've had it made to 8,000 IUs. And Dr. Mercola in the States, who I have a lot of respect for, the research he's done indicates that 8,000 IUs is the typical amount that most people seem to need in winter. The good news with vitamin D is you don't have to take it every day. While a lot of people do, if you missed a day, you forget, missed a couple of days, you can just catch up and take 3 times as much to catch up. So it's pretty versatile, very inexpensive, really inexpensive. And I think probably everybody's low on vitamin D. Probably just pretty, when I say everybody, 95% or something like that. So I would have thought that one could stop the cold, flu-like sort of symptoms if the whole population was taking vitamin D and not spending very much money. I would think you could empty most of the wards by, half at least. I think the figures are something like the people with the optimum amount of vitamin D have something like 70 to 80% less cancer with a K than people who are deficient in vitamin D. It's extraordinary, and people with the right vitamin D are happier. There's a lot of fantastic benefits of just supplementing with vitamin D. And a year's supply of the inexpensive sheep's wool derived version is I think £20 for a year. So it's doesn't get that much cheaper. So those are crucial, and of course vitamin C to go with those, because again pretty much everybody I reckon is low on vitamin C because food isn't fresh. So there's been so much study of vitamin C reversing everything that's commonly thought of as a symptom of a virus, from polio to smallpox to really everything infectious. Medical doctors for decades have been reversing with vitamin C. And, really, I think you can only say that there is a massive cover-up. They don't want to teach the doctors anything about nutrition and supplementation. It just goes against the pharmaceutical companies' financial interests, clearly.
And I was reading something that regarding vitamin C. The Paleo Diet is very has come in very popular and trendy. I think there's some famous people that were advocating for it. And I know some people that, and even some celebrities who went for this all meat diet. And there was a couple of instances where they developed a condition similar to scurvy, and so my understanding of that, Clive, is that's a vitamin deficiency and a vitamin C deficiency as well. So that condition, the old condition of scurvy, the old sailor's disease back in the day. But the people can accumulate a high protein diet, but not have not have some of the other essential bits in there, like vitamin C, for instance. But have you come across any stories like that?
Well, I think the first thing to be clear is that ketogenic diet does not mean just meat or anything like that. And it's a bit like saying, well, I follow a vegetarian diet and I'm ill, or I follow a vegetarian diet and I'm well. A vegetarian diet could be donuts and pizzas. So ketogenic is a very wide term. I think that most people, if not everybody, benefits from a truly balanced diet, i.e., vegetables in season, fruits in season. I believe that our ancestors were omnivores. Certainly in the old days, most populations lived by the coast, because in cold weather, or drought, there's always fish in the sea to eat. And I think there's ample evidence that there's never been a successful vegan civilization in the past. I view vegans as brave experimenters, and I'm not sure that many people can do well. I've seen people, let me tell you, when I used to see clients, if somebody was strong, but they needed to detox, they'd just been eating terrible food, I would put them on a raw vegan diet if they were willing, or a vegan diet, or a vegetarian diet, organic, obviously, and fantastic if you're strong to detox you. If somebody was weak, I might have been suggesting things like bone broths or chicken soup or fatty fish or fatty meat, or of the healthiest type, to build them up. I know the most extraordinary ketogenic diet I can think of is a friend of mine who'd had IBS for over a decade and couldn't go out of the house for more than an hour without being close, needing a toilet. And he tried every diet there was, raw vegan, you name it, he tried it in spades. And he just gave up and decided to go raw carnivore. And he got his favorite steak and ground it up, minced it up, and started eating raw steak, which is quite tasty, by the way, and not at all chewy or anything. And from that moment on, his IBS stopped. He just stopped it. He only did it for about 3 weeks or something, but he went raw carnivore for every meal and totally fixed his bowel. Fixed it. Then he went back to eating, as one would normally. So there's a time and place for every diet, and we're all different. Some people thrive on vegan, vegetarian, and some don't. For myself, if I eat too much raw food, I get loads of wind. And but if I eat what is for me normal, everything's great. I don't have any problems whatsoever. So I don't know whether that answers the question.
So it's really it's diet. Prescribing a diet's very personalized. Then it really has to do with the person, the condition they're currently in, right? And so there's no kind of there's no formula, as it were. I mean, there are many formulas, but you do have to look really at the individual case, don't you?
Well, I think so. And there have been times in my life, for 25 years, I didn't eat meat. Then I changed my mind and started eating it again. I think there are times in one's life where one diet might really suit you, and then other times another diet might suit you. Somebody might have been traveling a lot in the old days and eating out much more than they normally would. So perhaps going raw vegan for a time and having a great detox might really suit them for a week or two.
Yes, yeah, I think that's an important thing to consider, because everyone's looking for this sort of turnkey silver bullet answer, and when they hear someone famous person on some chat show saying that this is the way to go. I've done it. I feel great. And then boom, thousands of people are immediately doing the same thing. Because I guess people just naturally want to have an easy solution that they can go for in terms of diet, because diet's complicated. It can be complicated.
Well, I think it's really easy. I think it's really simple, because what the rules come down to basically, if you can, buy the best. And the best is going to be grown in an old-fashioned way with the very best of seeds, given the best in the long run often works out to be the best thing. If it's an old variety of plant that's being grown, it's going to taste great compared to the Euro varieties. And the reason it tastes great is going to be that hopefully it was grown on really good soil, it's uptaken a load of minerals, and it's been grown for the taste. By our ancestors did not grow for quantity. They grew for deliciousness. And we just need to look backwards and decide, let's not poison grandma at dinner tonight. Let's buy food that has no poisons in them. That, look at these needles they're putting in people's arms, for instance. If you took the individual ingredients from those and you served them on toast to your family, you'd be thrown in jail for poisoning. Pretty much every ingredient is absolute poison.
No, you're literally, Clive, I know people that will not buy anything that's not organic, that has any pesticides use on it, and they're very dedicated in that sense, but they ran to get the needle. They ran towards the needle when it was available and didn't bat an eyelid. That's got genetically modified ingredients straight into the bloodstream. So I don't know. There seems to be a disconnect with people on that issue. It's amazing.
Well, yes, they're mind controlled. Have you heard the one of all the parts of the body, which part of the body is the most washed? And the answer is the brain.
Yeah, right.
So aside from the brainwashing, so let's say somebody suddenly realizes, oh dear, I've had this needle thing. What should I do about it? Well, one of the things that you could do is to use another incredibly inexpensive supplement, which is on the website, which is Fulvic Minerals. We probably mentioned this before, but I think it does no harm to mention it again. Fulvic Minerals, and there's lots of evidence of this, neutralize graphene and graphene oxide, and neutralizes glyphosate and many, many chemicals. So, some people say, well, I love to eat organic, but I can't afford it, or it isn't available. In which case, it's super important to detoxify yourself with materials like Fulvic Minerals, like iodine, which again is super cheap, 20 quid for a year. These things are not expensive and really, really protect people. Iodine, massively important for the hormones, for clear thinking, good skin, controlling your temperature, controlling anybody who's got difficult periods, anybody who's got a difficult time with overheating, hot flushes, and all the menopausal type things. There are some really protective things if you're not eating perfectly. And I mean, frankly, who can eat perfectly unless you're really lucky? But a lot of people say, well, look, I want to grow it myself, for instance, or get somebody to grow, but there's no way I can grow because I haven't got a garden, haven't got a balcony. So you can always take almost every seed, almost every pulse, and sprout it. So you can have 100 grams of lentils or chickpeas or broccoli seeds or whatever you like, and sprout them. It only takes a day or 2 days, or at the most, let's say 3 days. And that 100 grams now is probably 400 grams in weight. It's fresh food. You don't need sunlight because seeds grow in the dark. And you can, for pennies, feed yourself fresh salad, fresh veg. And there are companies out there like Aconbury that sell seeds that are specifically for sprouting. You don't want to go to the garden centre and do it. So we can, if we put in a little bit of effort, and it doesn't take much to learn how to sprout, have fresh food in on the 35th floor of a tower block or wherever you happen to be.
Yes, urban farming as it's become more trendy in recent years. So yeah, there are solutions. There's a lot of good practical solutions, inexpensive as well. That's another myth, Clive, is that eating healthy and organic's too expensive. In fact, it can actually be a lot cheaper in different ways. So that's a myth as well. But yeah, we want to point people to your store, Clive. Clive de Carle. Just go to 21st Century Wire. You'll see the link in Clive's picture there and the link to his store. Check out what he's got on offer. We're definitely looking at magnesium, vitamin D, vitamin C, amino acids, glucose, iodine as well. I mean, there's just a number of different great supplements, essential supplements that you want to check out there. And like Clive was saying, with the Fulvic Minerals, remineralizing your water. Clive, I know people that use reverse osmosis, and there is a problem as well if you suck everything out of the water. And then I was also reading recently, if you drink that, dead water, as it were, bulk water, whatever they're calling it, it can actually, the water pulls minerals from your body. So it's the path of least resistance. So it's why it's important to drink well mineralized water. Have you heard anything on that side?
Well, there's evidence in both directions. Some people say that by drinking distilled water or reverse osmosis, it pulls some toxins out of you that you don't want. But it is dead water, as you say, and ideally spiraling it one way or another would be a good thing to do. But personally, I put fulvic minerals in most of the water that I drink. Equally, Celtic salt, dissolve a bit of Celtic salt in the water, that would be equally good. And I've done lots of testing with 2 glasses of water, one with a little bit of Celtic salt and one without, and saying, which water do you prefer? And if you put a little bit of salt in, it makes the water go soft, like a water softener. So everybody likes it with a bit of salt in. Not so much that they can taste the salt, but it does make it softer and nicer. And it's very good for you. Yeah.
Oh, yes. 80 plus trace elements and minerals in Celtic sea salt. So it's got a lot in it. So yeah, between fulvic minerals and Celtic sea salt, it's a great way to upgrade your water, as it were. But the great suggestions, and so these are really simple things that we've given you today during this segment that hopefully will be helpful to people. And also, I want to thank you again for joining us this week, Clive de Carle. It'll be a long winter for some people, depending on how north you are. But there are ways that we can help that situation along. But anyway, thank you so much, Clive, for joining us.
Thank you so much, Patrick.
There he goes, ladies and gentlemen. That is Clive de Carle. And again, if you want to know more about what he was talking about in terms of some of these special products, go to Clive de Carle's shop. You can see them on the homepage at 21st Century Wire. And you also see the banner ads as well appearing in different places. Go check it out. See if there's anything there that might interest you. Certainly, we're getting very good feedback on this from some of our listeners right now. So a lot of people are enjoying what's on offer there. Certainly I am too. And we hope that you will check it out.